me to write. Okay. I think folks should be hearing me now. Shouldn't be. Don't think it was technical difficulties. I think everything came through. Okay. Now we can begin. Hello everyone. It's time for another monthly stream, which I've called the 11th hour stream for the month of love, if you will. One of the pros and cons of doing the streams this late in the time of month. I'm not really bothered by it. I think, hey, it is what it is. Not that I'm particularly such a tradition. I generally try to do it at the end of the month anyway, so I can be a bit more reflective. Hello. Let's see how chaotic you can be today. Screaming. Good start. We'll hopefully not be screaming too much through this, especially now that I've got any potential audio issues out the way. So, move all my stuff. Really? You said you were going to be chaotic. Does that mean spamming as well? Naughty. So, yes, stream today. I've got a few things to discuss, a few questions. Hello, Jacob. You'll be very pleased to know what I'm going to plug in a minute. So, right, hello everyone. Yep, looks like we're all in and ready to go. So, stream this month. We are going to start off with a few plugs, first of all, because I now have a few things to advertise. And this is definitely connected to writing and all things thus, but more so something that I have been fortunate enough to take part in. And these are for any Whovians following. This is Doctor Who novel adaptations by Security Kitchen Productions on YouTube. Now, if you're into Doctor Who, if you're interested in the classic era or any era of the show, go over there. They have just released the first part of the novel adaptation of Transit by Ben Aranovich, that might or might not star yours truly in a small role. Terrific group, really professional. I really recommend everyone go and check them out if you haven't. So, first of all, everyone do that. And we are discussing books and they are book adaptations, so why not? Let's see what else we got. So, that was point number 1. Good. So, I thought I'd start out with a little update from last time. I was talking about a book that I thought was going to be very interesting to read into for my book 4 idea, which involved going to one specific period in history, World War One, and sort of seeing how a book that I remembered from my time in college doing English literature, see how... Yes, the mug. I know. Again, I described it before. Like, I love my mum, but like, it looks really egotistical if I've got a mug explaining the names of how, deep and meaningful the name Alex is. See, if I bought it for myself, it would just look really, really egotistical. But yeah, so last time I mentioned the book Regeneration by Pat Barker, and then as soon as that was over, I bought it. So this is on my reading list. The reading list at the moment is this, Dune, which I want to get done before the new movie comes out, now that it should be September, October, lockdown restrictions and all that notwithstanding, so if I can get it read out by then, that would be good. And I've got a few of the writing community books as well. I think I've bought 3 at the moment, but that list is only going to expand because I know a few people have already been releasing or are going to release their new books. So yes, I will have to keep an eye out for that. I'm reading the back of this actually. It reminds me a lot of why I liked it so much. And if anyone is interested in World War One fiction, then this is a great place to start. Yeah, you do. But aren't parents' gifts supposed to be at least a bit embarrassing? Yeah, it's all right. I got my own back. Um, yeah, I suggest. Yeah, I mean, I think Dune is one of those stories that I think gets a lot of inspiration. A lot of things take inspiration from it. I mean, Doctor Who Case of Androzani, but it's why I recommend people read, even though I am not as familiar with, but I do intend to read more of her work. I always say that people who are interested in sci-fi should be reading Ursula K. Le Guin's books, because while those have a lot of familiar elements to other sci-fi properties, it's nice to sort of go back and see what was the very first sort of stories to start off this, to sort of really inspire the genre. Whether it will be stuff like Ursula Le Guin's novels or of her work. I always say that people who are interested in sci-fi should be reading Ursula K. Le Guin's books, because while those have a lot of familiar elements to other sci-fi properties, it's nice to sort of go back and see what was the very first sort of stories to start off this, to sort of really inspire the genre. Stuff like Ursula Le Guin's novels or of her work. I always say that people who are interested in sci-fi should be reading Ursula K. Le Guin's books, because while those have a lot of familiar elements to other sci-fi properties, it's nice to sort of go back and see what was the very first sort of stories to start off this, to sort of really inspire the genre. Stuff like Ursula Le Guin's novels or of her work. I always say that people who are interested in sci-fi should be reading Ursula K. Le Guin's books, because while those have a lot of familiar elements to other sci-fi properties, it's nice to sort of go back and see what was the very first sort of stories to start off this, to sort of really inspire the genre. Stuff like Ursula Le Guin's novels or okay, has that helped? Okay, how's that? Has that helped everyone? Okay, am I still echoey? I'm still echoey now. Because I think I've seen what happened. Because my audio, I think it might have been doing... Okay, how's now? Hopefully... Okay, is that any better? Or have I just muted myself? It's kind of making me laugh. That's not useful. What do you mean making you laugh? Okay, right. I know why that was. Turns out that on OBS my audio output capture and desktop audio were both on at the same time as my input capture. So I think what was happening was I was audioing both my microphone, the desktop audio, and something else. Did you leave multiple tabs open? No, but I make the impression that I know what I'm doing with technology, and I really don't. That's the great deception. Anyway, back on point. Yeah, so the Asylum started following me, and I thought, right, if you're trying to follow me for film rights, I'm not going to give it to you, because I was talking to a friend of mine, and quiet Ace. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and she said they said they had a dream recently where they had their film rights taken by a really bad animation company that had absolutely butchered the project and left them in the dark with no royalties. And we sort of made a joke, oh, nightmare. But then I remembered, oh yeah, I'm being followed by them. And then it sparked an interesting conversation, and I talked about this with my mother as well, which was, if you've spent so long writing, all your books, and then you have the option for someone to come along and say, we'd like to, purchase the rights for your books, but then that it's from the same studio that brought us Sharknado, would you be willing to actually hand over those rights? And then the sort of theoretical what if conversation came into, well, what if they were offering like stupid money for it? You know, what if they wanted to pay you like $1,000 for a couple of $1,000 for it or something? And rather controversially, I said no, because I would think that if my stuff was going to be adapted, or I think if anyone wanted their stuff to be adapted and it required more than just like, you know, a couple of film cameras, some good acting, which you might not even get, and you know, small production values, fair enough. But with mine, I've seen what Sharknado looks like, and I've seen what some of the stuff would require in my books. Definitely not. I'd want at least something considering a budget. Because if Doctor Who can make stuff look good on a budget, then, you know, anyone can. If it was the right people, of course. So I don't know. That got me slightly amused thinking about a really, really naff Asylum version of my work, and then slightly filling me with dread. Now let's see let's consult the list. It's always good to have the list. Okay. Yep, there we go. So I thought, since it's you know, still just about the end of February, and I don't know, Valentine's Day was at some point this year. When was it? A couple of weeks ago. Some point this month. I thought, you know, it'd be interesting. I haven't actually, as this like on here, actually talked about the sort of personal history relating to my books. Now, sounds a bit deep, and I have mentioned about how you know, a lot of it was based on, you know, my own experience with you know, losing a few family members. You know, there's the ghost aspect and whatnot, but then there was the part of it as well, which was the romance aspect and the character's journey in that regards, which was interesting because I was thinking to myself earlier today that because as most of you probably know, I'm both bisexual and asexual. When I actually started this whole writing process, I didn't personally identify with either of those things. So it was very interesting. I thought that actually the books helped a lot in that process, because anyone you know, who sort of puts themselves into the writing, I think generally goes through quite a sort of, if you go to real and deep parts when you're writing, you kind of find yourself going through a bit of a voyage of self-discovery, if you were. And that's definitely what I thought when writing these particular stories, because I thought I didn't actually know much about this side of me when I started, and now looking back on it, you know, it's all clearer now. So in a way, I'm actually very thankful to the to my books. As bizarre as that sounds, I think I've never really sort of heard this before from anyone, so I don't know if I'm talking a load of nonsense. But I guess I kind of felt that, in a strange sort of turnabout way, they were really beneficial. And now I'm quite, how to put this nicely to myself, I'm not the smartest person in the bunch, so when it came to these recent discoveries, I kind of had to almost be told. I mean, you can thank Ace in the chat there. She was the one that basically whipped me around the head and go, mate, you're bi. It's obvious. Look at all the men you've been crushing on. Look at all the, you know, evidence to this. So that was fun. You have to be there. And then the asexual thing as well was just over time. But and it got me thinking. It does make sense, because I was I felt very passionately about bringing these LGBT themes into my work. They didn't need to be there. You know, it's one of those stories where romance is part of it, but it isn't like all of the main focus. It's kind of split between being a romance and a sort of modern fantasy. Urban fantasy? Yeah, urban fantasy. So in a way, I know a lot of people would say that if you were starting off writing, then, you know, it should be just one thing or the other. But then I never went, and I've talked about this before, but I never went into it thinking about one specific genre. And so when it came to the final product, it took me, I think probably the most difficult thing about it after I'd finished was the requirements that Amazon needed to do, which is the back blurb, your back synopsis, and categorize it. And Amazon are quite good, actually. They give you, I think, about 4 categories. So they're very open with how much you can actually, spread your book around. Because I know whenever you do that, it then puts them into, even deeper categories. So it's not just like fantasy. You can look up specifically like sci-fi fantasy or like fantasy romance. It narrows the field down so you've got a better idea of what you're looking at. And a big thing for me was like trying to find all the genres that go into it. I know, because I feel like a lot of people would say for your first work or for something that you, as an inexperienced writer, should really like focus on is just like one of these things. Just do a romance, just do an urban fantasy. But genres are mostly a marketing ploy anyway. Like Stephen King's books are rarely just horror. Yeah, I think it's probably as well just an easy way to I think they think it's an easy way to just like market yourself. Oh well, it's a horror. You expect certain things because anyone will know that even my stuff has a bit of horror in there as well. So it's more sort of rounded like that. But yeah, when it comes to when it came to the genre, that was the most difficult thing because I just wanted to write the story that I wanted to see. And that was sort of part of the reason why why I sort of thought it was interesting that sort of like there was this voyage of, discovery with myself, really, because you felt that, well, I felt rather that this was a plot that I wanted to see, and I think that's always the route you should do. I've always told people that if they aren't happy with the way, like, their favourite show ended, or they really want to see a plot like this, or wanted to change something about this, then why don't you? I'm not obviously advertising for, write a book that's basically the last season of Game of Thrones the way you wanted it to be, because, that's only, glorified fanfiction. There's nothing wrong with that, but, there has to, I think there should be a degree of originality in there. But with certainly my stuff, it came about twofold. One, as a sort of way of exploring these themes that actually helped me in the long run, and then also wanting to tell a story that I don't think is as common or commonly seen, either in the romance genre or the fantasy, urban fantasy, etc. So I think I've always said that if you really wanted to like write something and like get to it, and if you've got the plot, that's great. But if you can really like think of a new spin on something, because as I said, there is barely any original ideas anymore. If you've got a really good spin on something, or a combination of ideas to like mash together and make something different, then you could really have something special there. Now, before I forget, because I could go rambling a lot, I was asked a few questions, a few of which I have been asked before, but I will go through them because I feel there's a few new spins on it and a few new recommendations I can give since the first time I answered these. 4 questions, and thankfully for my darling girlfriend, I already answered her lovely question in the last one, so thank you for that. But the 4 questions that were asked. Okay, first one, what authors are inspirations for you? Which is good because I think a lot of people ask what are your favourite authors, and I think there's, nice crossover there. But I think inspirational authors has definitely grown since the first time that I was asked that, and I think it still remains that the top 2 will still be Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. Terry Pratchett for Discworld, and if you want to be really specific in Discworld, mostly Hogfather, and I think Colour of Magic. I haven't read much else, but again, plan to. I actually own most of the Terry Pratchett's well, we actually have most of the Terry Pratchett's for sale on the shop. Yes, Ace, I'm calling you out. You polluting my streams with your filth. I'll be sure to ask something. I'll behave. Why do I not trust you? So yeah, Terry Pratchett, Discworld stuff. Discworld stuff. That sounds so disrespectful. The Discworld genre series. Discworld series. I can't form words today. Discworld series. And as well, I think the specific ones for me have always been any of his ones with how he depicts death, because the Terry Pratchett Discworld version of death is, in my opinion, the definitive version of that character, and played brilliantly in most of the adaptations by Christopher Lee as well, and I think Ian Richardson in Hogfather as well. And then we've got the new The Watch. I have not had any time for the new Watch. I think it's no comment. I could go into that, no comment. But I will say that I think that the BBC America version of The Watch is, I think, any author's worst nightmare, which is when someone takes your book, uses it as clout, takes a few of the characters, and then makes their own thing out of it instead. And I'm sat here thinking, why didn't you just do a fantasy cop show? Why did it have to be Terry Pratchett's The Watch, when so little of Terry Pratchett's The Watch is actually in it? I could really go on a ramble about that, but I won't. And then Neil Gaiman, American Gods, and his collaboration with Terry Pratchett for Good Omens. Good Omens, I think, is sort of following from the trend of what Terry Pratchett started, which is the most British way that you can do like deep mysticism, which is to sort of... Oh no, you've actually seen The Watch. Oh, Jacob, I feel sorry for you. Don't watch The Watch. It's a thing. It is a thing. Like, there are definitely inspirations, but they're changed so much. Yeah. No, I'm a big fan of Dominic Noble on YouTube, and his whole YouTube career is based on the differences between movie and film or TV series when it comes to the adaptation process. There's some alterations that need to make sense, that need to be in there sometimes, not in The Watch but in general, like, because you're taking, Jacob, as you know, is a medium transfer from book to any kind of visual or audio medium. Unless it's a full-on reading of the novel, then you're always going to have to adapt certain things, turning inner monologues into speech, or like not including them and then showing them through or expressing them through different ways. Basically taking a world that has been described in detail in a book and then transferring that into something that you can either hear or see, or obviously both. Changes have to be made, but then you reach the point where, okay, well, how many of these changes are actually necessary beyond that? Like, okay, you've gender bent some characters. Okay, but why? You've now changed the tone into this sort of strange, sort of buddy cop fantasy. Okay, but why? Sometimes there have been changes that have helped the original source material. Like, if it's out of date in terms of, like, cultural depictions or, the sort of stuff when it was written at the time, and you've changed it, fair enough. Like, again, Dune, Denis Villeneuve has said that they are not characterising the Baron Harkonnen as a homosexual, because he's also a paedophile. And they said that they don't want that kind of... basically, the impression that I got from Denis Villeneuve in his interviews was, we don't think that's right for this day and age. And I think that's fair enough. They wanted this character to be really... Hello, Shane! They want this character to be really unpleasant. You don't then need that as well. If he's played by Stellan Skarsgård being unappealing, then that's... You've got the acting, you've got everything else. Done. You have to take the unique qualities of each medium into account, but still keep it recognisable. Yeah, and that can sometimes be, quite a challenge, but it all sort of depends on how much... It's almost like how much do you want to keep from it, and then how much do you want to take it and do something different with it. They also didn't cast Charles Dance. I'm sorry, no one is beating Charles Dance. No one can beat him. No, that's true. That's why Game of Thrones, for as problem laden as it was, thought, do you know who we need for Mr. Lannister? I always said that if my stuff was adapted, I'd love to be able to get as much like creative control as I can, but failing that, I don't think that my kind of stuff would be that difficult to transfer on a plot level. Because I don't know if I spoke about this actually, because I'm involved in a local theatre group. I just sort of do the sound and sort of, on stage stuff. I was actually talking to the person who ran that about this all makes question. We were actually talking about adapting book 1 to a stage play. Like, good idea on paper, but I think when you kind of get to the otherworldly aspects, that's where it might become difficult. But I don't actually think she's ruled it out, because she has bought the book and read it, and knowing her, I think at the very least there might be a rehearsed script reading in there. I certainly think it could be done, but then it depends on how much you kind of want to keep in, knowing that it's going to be done by a local community theatre with a shoestring budget. Most of it, then. Here's a chaotic question for you. How did you meet your girlfriend? Oh, can you not stand to be the centre of attention for 5 minutes? No, I will answer this, because like not only has my girlfriend Ace over there been my rock, but she's also been my inspiration as well. This has been a online relationship for a while, and I will tie it back into my books. She has been wonderful with keeping me motivated, keeping me sane. And the good thing is that because I already just praised her before and she didn't take to it very well, so I will praise her on a public forum. Very good writer, great at character building when it comes to original characters, and I have said that there is actually a very good author in there, of original content not tied with pre-existing stuff, because it's all fanfiction at the moment, but there is like a really good, really strong novel throughout all that fanfiction waiting to come out, and certainly helping nurture that has been very very fun and enlightening, and I think just sort of keeping me busy when I don't feel like writing or anything. So how did I meet her? Through a twist of fate online, that we happened to two paths cross together, if you will, through mutual interests, and that was 4 years ago. Been together ever since, so very happy. Nah. And now I'm making her flustered. Win, win, win. See, this was like the month of love stream, so why not? How much, now, going back to the questions, how much fantasy have you read out of curiosity? Again, an interesting one, because I sort of went into this having not read a lot of fantasy beyond what I've already mentioned before with the Pratchett and game and stuff, and even the game and stuff, modern fantasy. So I've always meant to check out Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, but never found the time to do so. But I do want to at some point. But I don't know, I guess I kind of felt that when going into this, well, I definitely knew when going into this, I asked, well, people were sort of asking, oh, what you're writing, and everyone who knew me said, oh, you're writing a book, it's going to be sci-fi. So in a way, I kind of went into this writing the genres that I had probably the least amount of experience in, that being romance and fantasy, kind of horror a bit, definitely body horror. So I kind of went in there a bit blind almost, because we had this conversation on a previous stream, which was, I feel you should definitely read things in the genre that you intend to write to see how other people do them, but you don't kind of want to get too kind of worked up in trying to sort of copy their styles, or like feel the need to confine yourself within the tropes of the genre. Because I feel like if I read a lot of fantasy, trying to think if there are many urban fantasy ones that come off the top of my head beyond I don't know, urban fantasy. Does anything come to mind? Because I'm trying to think. I suppose I've completely blanked now. Urban fantasy. Not quite sure, but yeah, I suppose I feel like if I did read like the most well-known ones of those genres, then I wouldn't know whether the ideas that I have in my head would then have to kind of be changed to fit that genre, or whether I would just write and then fit the genre in afterwards. Because I've always said I think the best thing to do is not worry about what genre your thing is in, and more write what you want to write and then retroactively find what suits it best. Because as we said, genres is just marketing ploys anyway. Pause for drink. And do you take fantasy recommendations at all? I would. I mean, I'm always... Percy Jackson. Yes. Thank you. I knew... couldn't think of it. The Dresden Files and Ben Aranovic's non-Who stuff. Ben Aranovich does actually... In Scarborough, we have a thing called Books by the Beach, which has tons of well-known authors. I think we've had Michael Palin a couple of times. And Ben Aranovich comes to a lot of those to sort of talk about his work, and I do really need to attend one of those. I keep joking he needs to come to our con so that I can actually track him down and get him to sign the copy of So Vile a Sin I have, because that's the one that I paid £70 for. Please, we could like move house with this kind of money. Urban fantasy, I'm quite fond of Charles de Lint's work. Ooh, yeah. With now Percy Jackson, yes, I am familiar with. Dresden Files, aware of. Need to get into Ben Aranovich's stuff, and I assume Carowan, that Charles de Lint's work is one that you'd recommend. So I'd definitely be up to reading more, because knowing me, I've got. Let me work this out. I've got, like, if you include the first 2 books that I've written and the third one, which I'm currently writing, my sort of book world, if you will, have got about 8 books in them, at least. So if I read stuff and get more, like, ideas from it, then it would be absolutely no problem for me, because I'm always looking to expand my scopes and just sort of do things different. Because, we've got the 3 books that will form the sort of trend part of it. Then we've got the stuff with the Queen character and sort of further ideas. So I'm always looking for just sort of seeing how people interpret urban fantasy and any other genre that happens to grab interest that I think would suit well in this world. Because with stuff like Percy Jackson, that's a prime example of that, because you're taking all these gods and deities and all these legends and then plonking it in the modern day setting. And I really hope, and sort of tying it into another conversation we had, I really hope that the new adaptation that they're getting is actually going to be a lot better than the last ones, because yikes. This is actually a good one, because I've mentioned it before with motivations when it comes to writing. How do you stay on track? Do you have targets to reach each day, week, and do you let the writing flow naturally? And I do, but I feel like I had a lot more stricter sort of targets for myself in the first book. My sort of plan there was, I thought, right, if I can get... So I plotted, I'm a meticulous plotter, which can work for people and can also be really restricting for others. But with me, it's like, I don't go into anything unless I know exactly where the beginning, middle, and end is, and then what happens in each chapter. So, like, okay, prologue, this, and this, chapter 1, then this, and this happens, and then on and on. Because in my mind, I'll, like, know where the plot's going, but I'll kind of need to, like, anchor it down and say, right, okay, here are the bullet points, this is what happens in each, and then I've got like the whole plot on lockdown basically. But then it has changed in the past, and then when I actually started writing, I thought, right, okay, I kind of want to keep things within a kind of page limit. So if everything's kind of about, because the sort of running joke I have with anyone that's seen me writing is that my chapters end up being about 10 pages long. Originally that was intentional, now it's not intentional. And that was like, okay, well, if I can keep it at a sort of 10-page limit, then that's good, because that means that I'll have enough time to describe the stuff that's going on, but also make sure that, this book has a page count. It's not a flimsy little thing at the end. Which was, as an experiment, it worked, but I found that it did leave the pacing a bit kind of long-winded at the end of book one. Like I've said, I'm not one of these people that won't admit their mistakes. Probably the biggest issue with the plot of book one that I found reading back on it is, okay, you've defeated the villain. There's still like 3 or 4 chapters left. If this was in the adaptation process and you needed to shave time, this would be the bit that you'd cut out. And I would be all for it being cut out, because all it does really is just like extend character interactions, but in reality they are kind of already established. You don't need extra stuff on top of it. And then in in book 2, that was interesting, because I actually found that it was probably going to be a bit boring in the middle, but thankfully I found enough bits to actually add to it to extend it and keep it more interesting. Book 3 is going to be quite interesting, because there's a lot more to go into detail, because it's essentially a big exercise in world building, the first few chapters. So yeah, keeping on track, that's interesting, because I have said that I think in the last stream I did, we talked about writer motivation, and that was well, for me, I think like writer's burnout should never be underestimated. It's definitely a right pain in the backside, especially if you are a plotter like me. You might end up with like, okay, well, I know where it's going. Do I then have the energy and the motivation to go through? Because I've said that for me, it's never an issue of writer's block. It's an issue of writer's motivation. What's the kick up the arse to keep me going? But I found that if it doesn't come naturally, I think the best thing to do is kind of take a step back, stew on your ideas, and then see if you can get excited about them. Oh, thank you, Jacob. Thank you. I'll be interested to see what you think, because I think book 2 does improve on book 1 in some regards, and probably might fall into sort of similar points as the first one. So yeah, that would be interesting. More of a straightforward plot in there. No spoilers, of course. So yeah, I'd be interested to see what you think. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So yeah, with keeping myself on track, do I have targets to reach? Sometimes I'm not. I couldn't be one of these people that starts with like, okay, well, I'm going to do 1,000 words or 500 words a day. Because one of the reasons why I like doing these at the end of the month is I can look back on my progress throughout the month. And I started on chapter 4. Actually, I can check. When did I start on chapter 4? I should probably know for my own benefit. Okay, I started chapter 4 on the beginning of the month. No, actually, correction. 20th of January was when I started it, and I'm on, I think, the 4th page now, nearly 5th. I mean, that was like one day I did 2 lines, because I'm not working on it every single day. I'm kind of, juggling projects and sort of doing other things, and sometimes this, especially in this lockdown period, this don't feel like writing, and we'll just sit on Skyrim all day. Yeah, because that's how people write. But yeah, I definitely think it's one of those case by case basis. You start writing, then you see how you best work. But for me, it seems to be when the mood is right, and how much I feel like I can get through in one sitting without having to force it. Because I found that probably the worst stuff I write is when I actually force it. Because again, as you say, it doesn't flow naturally. So yeah, that's always useful. Yep, there we go. So So yeah, I would always say that anyone who is sort of wondering how the motivation happens and kicks in, just like try it for yourself. I'm guilty of that. I don't write all the time either. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I don't think. I think looking around at some people in the writing community, I think there is definitely an issue people have with they've become some of the people that are like diehard writers that will like write a couple of thousand words a day do generally seem to be the loudest voices, and it does become kind of either desensitizing or like a bit troubling if you're here at your own pace and then you see like, oh well, I've written 6,000 words in one day, and it's just like, yeah, well, I've written 2 lines, but that doesn't matter. It might work for them, but it doesn't necessarily work for you. Now, I've seen people try to do like for a week, like for 1 week, I'm going to do 500 or 1,000 or 6,000 or whatever a day. You know, if that works, great. It doesn't work for me, but great. What's it called? There's I should know this actually. There's the sort of writing thing you do online, which, you know, you sign up on a website and it says that you have your daily writer's goals, and I think at the end of the month or at the end of the 2 months, then you see if you've reached those goals. Is it? No, it's not. I can't remember the name, but yeah, like sometimes people will need like something like that, like a time limit to actually galvanize them, to get them energetic and get them done. It's definitely an individual thing. I write if I'm inspired. Yeah. I've definitely found that one of the reasons why I like to take a break is usually if I've like been distracted by something else, because the way my brain works is if it gets distracted by a shiny object, then that's me for the rest of the day. Same with writing, same with moods in general. Like, I haven't been able to write too much recently because I've just finished a new anime. You know, it's an anime from the 90s, but that's been on my brain so much. It's like, you know, brain small, writer big. So, no, right, Mo. Thank you. I could not get that name in my head. I kept for some reason my brain kept going to Picru, and that's not. It's an avatar maker, you fool. Ugh, blimey. You can tell that lockdown's being really kind to me, can't you? Mind you, I feel like I get as much writing done here as I do at work. I should say, working at a family-run bookshop, coffee shop. You know, it's fair enough that in between customers that you do sneak away a bit, hide on a sofa and type out a bit. So that's that's usually where I'm writing, because, you know, you're surrounded by books anyway. If you need a bit of inspiration, you can just pluck one off the shelf. Especially since the Doctor Who aisle is really close and can just grab it. But yeah, as far as motivation goes, I would say listen. Thank you. Thank you. I see you taking the mic. But yeah, I would always say like, just keep experimenting, seeing what works for you. Because I think generally people assume that writers will always like churn out. We do love the old cultural image of like the dishevelled looking writer behind a typewriter, you know, constantly at their wares the whole time. But, you know, it doesn't need to be like that. I think I mentioned this in one of my first ones. Like, the amount of times that when you see a writer portrayed in a movie, you know, it always has to be the suffering artist type or really pretentious. Oh, who was it? It was it was like the lead character in 2012. Oh, he's a writer, but he's got intense writer's block, and it's just like, yeah, you know what, we all do. You know, the world might be ending for you, but, you know, suck it up, mate. We don't all need to hear about your writing woes. But yeah, I'm definitely quite happy with the way that my methods seem to be, because at first I was kind of putting a bit of pressure on myself to get book 1 and 2 out at a certain time. Like, fair enough, book 2 I wanted to actually be released for the first Sci-Fi Scarborough. Then sorry, not the first Sci-Fi Scarborough. This was like it would have been the 6th, and I would have had, as I said before, I would have had a little stall sorted, decorated, all ready to like sell book 2, and then the pandemic hit. Or Emma Thompson in Stranger Than Fiction, where she's literally just stuck on one scene. I mean, yeah, I think we've all definitely felt like that before. There's the one scene that isn't giving anything. I try to at least at the short verse a day just to stay in the habit, but that's just me. Yeah, like I think with writing in general, you kind of do need to keep in mind that if you are falling off it, then you might be just in need of a little push if you want to keep at it, and if you don't feel like you need a break. But I think just generally, in sort of, especially in the trade of independent creators sort of putting stuff out, I think there is a sort of, I think we do put a lot of pressure on ourselves to, really churn this work out. Whereas in reality, I think if you're not on a deadline, then you can afford to take it slowly, or you can afford to like let it sit for a bit, or take out a couple of lines a day. Because at the end of the day, we're like us in the independent writers groups. We're not writing for anyone, like in terms of like publishers or anything. We keep to our own sort of, and that's one of the reasons why I love it. We sort of stick to our own lanes at our own paces. We'll reach out and see how other people are doing, but it's sort of nice and contained, so you can focus on it without any outside influence. Because as I said, as Amazon, yes, it has its problems, but you really can't fault their self-publishing methods. Just because they will only really want of you, the front and back covers, what's inside, and then they'll take your money for proof copies, and then they'll shave off whatever they need to do for royalties. And that's it. That's why I've never had any inclination to go for a publisher. And, as I said, more power to the people that go for a publisher and end up making a success from it. But yeah, definitely not for me. Was there something else? Actually, I meant to bring this up on the last one, but I didn't have time. Now, recently I did say that if you're a writer that's just starting out, or, you don't have much out and you want to sort of connect, then, getting involved in the writing community on social media is always a must. But one thing that I found very useful is sort of reaching out to others in the writing community is a great way to sort of like sound off your ideas. So for instance, recently I approached multiple people about a character in book 3 who is a major character who's also non-binary. And one of the great things about being in the writing community is that you have such a variety of unique voices out there, and especially when it comes to LGBT writers, there's so many people out there that will give really good, honest feedback on whether what you're writing and how you plan to go about developing these characters is good. Like I'm always of the opinion that you should get as many like unique opinions as you can. So I've reached out to a few people, including, and I have to give a shout out now, Kai Clayton, who's been involved in the Doctor Who audio projects. Terrific actor. Really fortunate to work with them a few times now. And I basically sent them a DM going, right, this is the character. This is the sort of backstory for them. What do you think? How do you think like this character will like not be received, but like is it positive representation? Does it work as a character? Because this sort of goes back to the conversation I had before, which is, do you have, when you have a diverse cast, you don't want to make them into just like the token this, the token that. I've always found that, especially in diverse media, the best characters are the memorable ones that are fleshed out. you know, they have their weaknesses, they have their strengths. They are treated like any other character, just that they have this one thing that makes them, you know, different from others, or, you know, noteworthy things in their character descriptions and whatnot. So I found that one of the best things is that if you do have any doubts about how your characters are being portrayed, if they are within a you know, minority or, you know, different groups, then finding people who share that and then getting their opinions on will absolutely be like the best thing you can do, and getting multiple of them as well. So I was fortunate for the feedback I got, and it definitely eased a lot of concerns as well. Because the last thing you want to be doing is to be seen to be, like, even with noble intentions, like inadvertently, you know, disrespectful or anything. So, you know, terrific. And that's just one of the great things about connecting through social media in general. Just getting that feedback and getting that sort of feedback from other people, and it doesn't just need to be. And that's what I love, that they're just written about like any other character. Their diverse traits are just part of them. Yes, exactly. And again, like I've just been watching Twin Peaks, and the way that, and two characters came out to mind, which is Hawk, who's in the sheriff's department, and I've forgotten their name already because my team renamed it as terrible, and David Duchovny's character as well, and they are Hawk being a Native American or Native Canadian. I think he's Native American, and David Duchovny's character being a person who transitions. I know we sort of go into the whole thing about actors. Should they be actors who... Should you be hiring trans actors? Should you not? You know, I won't go into that, but I am of the opinion that you should be hiring trans actors. Eddie Redmayne and Jared Leto. But as far as the characters themselves go, like what their traits are, whether it be their origins, their race, their sexuality, their gender, they are still treated like characters. You know, Hawk is still a part of this group that is monitoring all the weirdness in Twin Peaks, and David Duchovny's character goes from being an undercover agent to, I think, head of the FBI. And, you know, it's great to see that these characters are not only treated like characters, but treated with respect as well. So that when it does come to the later seasons, then, you know, you gravitate to them because they don't feel like, oh yeah, that's the blank character, you know, they're more, because you've spent so long getting to know them, you know, they are just a member of the group, like everyone else. Diversity is actually easier than people out to make be, like, you just write them as people and then you get them as people. Exactly. People definitely, I think you should always be careful about the intentions behind it as well. Like, there will definitely be the people that will want to put diversity in there, and then there'll be the clout chasers. You know, I could definitely name some authors, but I choose not to, who will be like, oh yeah, this character is this. They've got no intention of actually showing it, but, you know, look how progressive it is. I'm not going to reference it at all, but it's there, because I said it was. I think we all know who I'm talking about. And that's something that I was always keeping in mind whenever I was writing. So it's good to, it's always good to get like second opinions, because if anything, it just eases your concerns after a while. Oh, there we go. I should say audio issue is fine now, isn't it? Yeah, it looks fine. I definitely need to make sure that doesn't happen again. I mean, the good thing is I've got about a month to sort my stuff out. Actually, didn't want to say, future plans for both next stream and for other content. There is a short that I've written about two characters that, and I think I mentioned this in the last one, two characters who are in the second and third book, but basically, I started writing them and started characterizing them before they appeared in the in the third book, and I thought, actually, I do kind of like these characters, so I decided to put them in the second book. So the transition between book 2 to book 3 is a little smoother now that you have an awareness of lol audio issues. Yeah, keep laughing, you. So it's sort of like there's connective tissue between books. And I enjoy writing them so much that there is a short that I've written. It's only, I think, about 3 or 4 pages, and that is called Frost Fair. The cover illustration for that's already been done, but I'm debating whether I should read it straight or have it be fully voice acted, but I'm leaning towards it being fully voice acted. So I'll definitely reach out to people. And there's been an interest in the character Vala, so I might give them a short as well. Nothing that like spoils anything, but just like world building. You don't need it to go into the next book. You don't need to listen to it to like miss any details. It's just a nice bit of stuff on the side, basically. And let's see, what else do we have? Before the actually no, after the last stream where I talked about the it was the last but one. The last but one stream had the art showcase, which was terrific because we got to see some quite fantastic art on display, and hopefully the audio and visual issues are well and truly effed off, so we can actually see them. I think it's time to actually show off some more artwork, I think. Now, I'm just going to wrestle with OBS for a bit, but and if this doesn't work, I shall provide the links to them on the through Twitter. But yeah, I've had 2 pieces done recently, and I'm really fortunate with the artists that I've had really fortunate with the artists that I've had, because I think getting art done of your books, regardless of if it's cover art or not, is a really nice way to help promote your work, because it's nice to sort of have things that are sort of concrete that people can look at beyond like your front cover, and sort of show off some characters, show off some scenes, get some interest building. And I've been quite fortunate because my my work has had a bit of interest just purely because of the art. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's necessary, and it can be, quite. It can be quite, depending on who your commissioners are, it can be quite costly if you choose the right people. But I've been very fortunate in choosing the right people, and I've filibustered long enough. So, what you can see in. Right, let's have a look. There we go. Don't need to put the Twitter lineup on. So, the first picture is, now I've been very cheeky with the character designs, and had a few of my friends basically form some of the characters. So one character is based on a good friend of mine who is on Twitter as Moody Glitchmoon, or Moody Safer Work Art, who's done some art before. They did this picture previously, which is Trem's parents in her cute style, and she's also done the character that's based on her, called Udi, in a rather adorable anime style. So that was the first of 2. Yep, there we go. That was the first of 2 pictures done. Very happy with that. That was a moment of cuteness, if ever I've seen one. And another was done by another friend of mine on the server. There we go. And it is a character that we'll be introduced to in book 3. And I won't say anything due to spoilers, but again, some rather fantastic artwork done, very quickly as well. So really speedy artist. So that brings the full amount of book-related artwork up to 30. Let's have a look. All those together, 26, 27, 28. 28 pieces, because I do not know when to stop when it comes to doing book art. But then, when it all looks this good, why should you not? So yeah, I was very, very happy with those, and pretty much every time a new piece of artwork gets done, I'm going to show it off and promote the artist. And that one's Mitsuri Hana. Again, I've said in the previous one in the art stream that I would link everyone in the either video description or the top comment, and have yet to do that, but I will do that after this and then put the link to those as well, because all the artists are terrific and all need way more recognition. So if anyone wants good commissions, they'll know where to go. Instagram and Twitter, really. Yeah, I think that's been DeviantArt, but mostly those do. Right. And I think that's everything. Yeah, I think that's everything. So, next stream. I thought I might do something a bit different, because I was actually on the... I actually found one of my old hard drives, and on there was writing from me from 2010 to 2014. With some, and even some bits before then. So I thought it might be interesting to have like a live read through a few of my old stuff and see how far I've come along. There's a Doctor Who piece of fanfiction in there that is pretty bad, if I remember. Pretty bad, that I think I wrote around 2010. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see what the opinion is on that. But yeah, I've a bit of a laugh. We'll see how that goes. I know a lot of people said that you should be proud of your early work, and for the most part I am, because I feel all the stuff that I've written has helped me get to this point, and then any stuff that I've written now will help me in the next stage. But I think you can also have a bit of a laugh at your expense. I'm not that serious that I can't laugh at some questionable stuff in the past. So yeah, I will see what I can rustle up for the next one, and then the normal Q&A format as well. As far as I'm aware, nothing going on next month. I think lockdown should be back in the shop by April, I think. Fingers crossed. Could be earlier. Could also be later, but we don't know. But yeah, anyway, I reckon that's probably a good place to round off, actually. Hope people have enjoyed my ramblings once again. I got to embarrass my girlfriend in a public forum, so always good times there. One more check of things. Yep, I think that's everything. That top shot live chat. Let's have a look. Cool. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I think I will call it a day there, and thank everyone for coming by, and hopefully it should be same time next month, or I might do an early one, but either way, we'll be the first to know if that's the case. And yeah, hope everyone enjoys the last day or two of their shush, I can't be shushed. I hope everyone enjoys the last day or two of their February, and let's see what March has. Now, what date are we looking at in March? So, tentatively, March 27th, but possibly March 20th. We'll see. Again, I don't think we have anything on. So yeah, again, thank you everyone for stopping by, and yeah, hope everyone enjoyed, and I will all see you next time. That was really cringy. Okay, so yeah, thank you everyone, and I will see you all then. Yes, thank you. Always a pleasure to have you too. Where's the button? Would help if I could actually navigate OBS. Yeah, again, thank you everyone.